What's up, everybody? Redneck Republican here. First of all, happy Sunday. I hope you all have had a blessed day so far. Today was a fun Sunday for me as I got to run the sound system for Versailles Baptist Church. I've done that a few times here and there. It had been a while since I've done it last, so I was a bit rusty. But at the end of the day, we got through it. So it's always fun being able to be up in the sound booth and all that. So, but anyway, I wanted to. The reason I'm making this video is because a few days ago I saw an article from an article by Stephen Harmeyer of the 812. The 812 is I guess you'd say it's a local news outlet, mainly covering southeast Indiana, places like Franklin, Dearborn, Ohio, Switzerland, Jefferson, Ripley, Jennings, Decatur counties, and it even branches out even farther sometimes, but mainly that heart of the southeastern Indiana. But he came out with an article about, it says 5 days ago, and it says, new laws taking effect on Indiana on July 1st. So obviously, today being July 5th, they've already taken effect. But the reason I wanted to talk about this is because some of these bills were actually authored or sponsored or co-authored, co-sponsored, whatever, by some of our local elected officials. And a lot of these guys don't get the recognition they might deserve because of the fact that we don't get Indianapolis news or just Indiana news down here. It's all Cincinnati-based stuff. And I know one time when I was talking with Representative Garrett Bascom, he kind of talked about that, how it's kind of hard getting his, obviously in his mind, he's doing a lot of great things, and I would agree, I think he's doing some good things, but it's just hard for people around this area to really see that. So that's why I appreciate Stephen Harmeyer for really taking the time to, I guess, shine a light on these. Now, I'll link this article somewhere in this post, just so that way you can go read the whole thing, because I'm only, there's a lot on here, because I guess every single new law that took effect on July 1st, I'm only going to be mentioning the ones that actually have something to do with a local lawmaker. So the first one we have is the Immigration Enforcement Senate Bill 76. It requires Indiana government bodies to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement. Employers can face civil penalties if they knowingly hire or recruit an undocumented immigrant. Also prohibits an employer from discriminating against an employee who communicates with the Attorney General in regard to immigration matters. And it says, local state senator Jeff Rotz was a co-author of the bill, and state rep Garrett Bascom was a sponsor. I don't know as much about Jeff Rotz. I know he's in, I believe it's Senate District 27, which for us in the 812 would be, he has the eastern half of Franklin County. The western half is Gene Lysing, but he does have the the eastern half, I believe, and then he also has, let's see if I can remember now. I think he's got Henry and Wayne counties, and then I think it's Union County. I think that's what it is. But the main one I care about is Garrett Bascom, and he's the state rep for Dearborn County, Ohio County, Switzerland County, and Milton Township of Jefferson County. But I think that's a good bill. I'm guessing this is mainly talking about like ICE and stuff like that when it talks about federal immigration enforcement. So I've got some problems with ICE. I mean, some of the the big stories that have come out about them, I do have some problems with. But like, I'm not like one of those Democrats. Those Democrats that say we gotta abolish ICE. Like, no, it's like I'm not the most hardcore Republican there is out there, but I'm still a mainline Republican in the terms of you need to have ICE. We need to have a federal immigration enforcement. If there's illegal immigrants in this country, they need gone. So I think this is a good bill that, like I said, you can't be hiring undocumented immigrants. You just can't do that. So that's why appreciate Jeff Rotz for being a co-author, and I appreciate Garrett Bascom for being a sponsor. That's that's a plus in my view. That's that's going to be it's going to help him out in terms of me in November. I mean, I wasn't going to ever support his Democratic opponent Hunter Collins anyway, but that that definitely is a point in his favor if he ever would have another Republican, if he would ever have a Republican opponent in the future, or a more centrist Democrat. But anyway, let's go on to the next bill. It is doxing, Senate Bill 140. It is now illegal to put someone's personal information on a social media platform if there is intent to cause physical harm, property damage, or cause a crime. I mean, this just seems like common sense. We always talk about the three rights, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Well, having your own privacy on your own property, in your own home, I think applies to pursuit of happiness. So I think that's common sense. And it says that local state reps Garrett Bascom and Alex Zimmerman, along with State Senator Gene Leising, were involved in this legislation. Senator Leising dealt with a pipe bomb threat last year, and that, of course, stemmed from her no vote on redistricting. But again, I've already talked about Bascom. Zimmerman, he's my local rep. Once I move down to Switzerland County, Bascom would be my rep, but here currently for sale is in Ripley County. Excuse me, man. Alex Zimmerman is my rep. He has most of Ripley County, but not Batesville and Sunman, not like the little top portion of Ripley County. He's got most of Jennings, but he does not have, I believe it's Geneva Township, I think is not, and it's northwest Jennings County all the way to Columbus, and I believe that's Geneva Township. I don't think he has that. And he has a little bit of Decatur County. He has like Westport, Millhausen, and then he has a decent portion of Jefferson County. Yeah, I mean, he has like Madison and all that main stuff. But he obviously doesn't have Milton Township in Jefferson because that's Bascom's, and he doesn't have like the Hanover area and that whole southwest part of Jefferson County. That Zach something or other. I can't remember the rep's name for that district, but anyway, I'm a big fan of that legislation. I think, like I said, to me it's common sense. You can't be doxing someone. I'm surprised this, hasn't been. I'm surprised that's taken this long to become a law, to be honest. But I'm glad, I'm not. It doesn't say they were like authors or sponsors, but they said were involved. But whatever involvement they had, I appreciate them for that. And then we have Police Enforcement in Hidden Valley, House Bill 1155. This measure allows local law enforcement to enforce laws within private communities that have at least 1,500 lots and at least 15 miles of private roadway. Hidden Valley Lake, which is in Dearborn County, close to just north of Greendale, is one of the only 3 communities in Indiana that is currently impacted by this new law. Dearborn County deputies will be patrolling Hidden Valley Lake as soon as July 1st on scheduled shifts. This was co-authored by local state rep Garrett Bascom, and state senator Wittmer-Mikesell was also a sponsor of the bill. This makes sense. Both of them are Dearborn County guys, very, very familiar with Hidden Valley. And I delivered packages over in Hidden Valley back last Christmas. It's actually a very beautiful area, but they had like their own little rangers there, but no one really took them seriously, if I'm going to be honest. So I think it's good that, like this says, Dearborn County deputies can now actually patrol there and make sure that law enforcement is kept. So it's good. I mean, it's a simple bill, but it's good. I think it makes sense. And the guy, Bascom or Maxwell, I mean, I'm not surprised that they had involvement with that. Oh, let's see, what else do we have? We've got a bunch in here that we have a bunch in here. Not all of them were involved with local people, but the phones in schools, Senate Bill 78. This law requires each school corporation to adopt a policy that, with limited exceptions, prohibits student use of personal wireless devices during the school day, and mandates either a no device or a structured storage approach. It does have exceptions for certain students, and this bill was authored by Jeff Rotz. I was just in school only a few years ago. I mean, to be honest, I don't think phones are that much of an issue. The biggest thing, the thing with phones, the biggest thing with them is actually getting the teachers to enforce that. See, my senior year, our school adopted a policy of phones in the lockers. They didn't want phones, so they said, okay, phones in the lockers. That was the thing for about a week, maybe. Like, I remember the first day of school, I'm a new teacher. It was his first day, obviously. As soon as the bell rings, he's like, phones in the lockers, phones in the lockers, phones, put them in the lockers. I mean, he looked goofy as hell, but he was a cool guy. I liked him. But it was just like, I mean, it was a thing, for like a few weeks or whatever. But it got to the point where most of those teachers didn't care, because mainly kids, when we were actually doing stuff, learning, being engaged, we weren't really on our phones. But then once class was basically done, we didn't have much going on, or if we had completed our work, the teachers didn't care if it was on our phones as long as we were being quiet. So, and then halfway through that school year, I mean, the phones in the lockers was like not a thing anymore. It was the same thing with like, oh, we don't want you taking your backpacks in the class. I mean, that lasted a little while, but then kids just kept on doing it, and teachers didn't care. So it just kind of fell by the wayside. I mean, maybe now that it's a state law, it might be more of a thing, I guess. But again, just because every school corporation has to adopt that policy, is it going to get enforced? What are you going to do? Arrest a kid because he has a stupid phone on him in class? Come on. So I'm not too sure how effective of a bill it's going to be, but we shall see. Then we have, this is a bit of an interesting one, but the Online Sweepstakes Games, House Bill 1052. This measure prohibits sweepstakes games online, such as contests and promotions that simulate casino-style gaming for monetary value. That would be internet-based poker, online slot machines, and other games that are not offered by the State Lottery Commission. Operators could be subject to a $100,000 fine. This was co-authored by local state rep Garrett Bascom. One interesting thing about Bascom's district is that, a lot of people might not know that, down here in Southeast Indiana, we got 3 casinos. We got the Hollywood Casino in Lawrenceburg, we got the Rising Star Casino in Rising Sun, and then we've got Belterra Casino over by Florence, Indiana, not Florence, Kentucky, but the very small town of Florence, Indiana. It's also kind of close to Vivi. But I mean, I think that's good. I mean, I'm not even 21 yet, so obviously I can't gamble. But the idea of gambling never much interested me. But that is, a lot of people struggle with that addiction, and yeah, I think it's good that gambling should be kept to only the casinos, kept like I said, State Lottery Commission, all that. It's like, I think it's good for that stuff to be regulated. So I like that bill. And then that looks to be about it for the laws that had involvement with local lawmakers. But anyway, I just thought it would be good to kind of point that out a little bit. I wanted to talk about it. It was interesting to me a little bit. So that way people, like, again, a lot of these local state reps might not get the exposure they deserve for some of the laws they might have a part in. Some of the stuff they do is kind of simple. Like, Maxwell just recently had a bridge renamed down over by Hanover in Jefferson County. It was the Greg Cloud Memorial, Bridge. English is hard today. Anyway, Greg Cloud was a local firefighter. He unfortunately passed away fighting a fire many years ago. So that was a nice gesture of State Senator Maxwell. A couple years ago, Alex Zimmerman renamed the bridge just by Vernon to the Lance Corporal Jackie Koenig Memorial Bridge. And Jackie was actually a student of my mom's back when she was a teacher, so it's pretty cool that Zimmerman did that. But anyway, they don't just, these local lawmakers, they're not just involved with, kind of low grade stuff. They actually do have a part in pretty big and important bills, so I wanted to talk about that. Now, I wanted to talk about this last link, talking about local lawmakers. I saw something on Facebook from a former state rep for District 67, Randy Fry, about the Versailles State Park Lake, and I wanted to talk about it. So, this comes from a post on Facebook from the White Rabbit Lounge, which is a bar here in Versailles, Indiana, and it was basically talking about how the lake in the Versailles State Park is kind of in jeopardy because pretty much it's needing to be dredged out, and we really are not getting the funding to do that. And there's a petition going around, people saying, let's save the lake because, if the dam gets decommissioned, it could go back to being a creek, and we wouldn't have the lake. It could just be a crazy thing. But anyway, a comment on that post was from Randy Fry. And like I said, I thought it was interesting. So he says, I worked on this this is from Randy Fry. I worked on this for the 13 years I was in office. I was never able to get the state to fund dredging the lake and restoring it to its original condition. The lake was also used for flood control downstream. Now that the gates can't be operated, no flood control is possible, and the town of Friendship pays the price for the lack of flood control. I was told $7 million would dredge the lake. That's a lot of money in our checking accounts, but not so much in the states. I recommend contacting your elected state and federal officials and politely request funding to repair the lake. I agree it's a valuable asset we can't and shouldn't allow to disappear. Happy to discuss this more should someone want additional information. Randy Fry, retired state representative. And I thought that was very nice of Randy Fry to talk about that. And I did not know that, but I'm glad that he actually worked on that when he was in office. And I never knew, obviously, I was a kid, but I never knew that was really an issue. But I appreciate him for doing that, and I think it's bullshit that the state really isn't wanting to fund that, because Versailles State Park is the second largest state park in the state, only behind Brown County, and our main claim to fame pretty much is our lake. So, and he has a very good point. Past couple years we've had a lot of rain. The town of Friendship, which some of you might know through the Friendship Gun Shoot and Flea Market, which is every June and September. When it rains a lot and it floods, Lothar Creek, when it rises, the town's flooded out. And I never realized that was because flood control is not possible anymore. And if you're curious, the way the lake is possible is that you had Lothar Creek, and then they built the dam, and that's what created Versailles Lake. But anyway, I just wanted to highlight former state rep Randy Fry's comments on that matter. But I think I'm going to link that 812 article, but I also might link that petition as well, so that way if you guys so choose you can sign that, because like I said, if we lost the lake, that would be horrible. Like I said, the lake is one of our main attractions here in Versailles, specifically in the state park. So anyway, but we're coming up on 20 minutes now. I don't want this video to go on too long. I hope all of you guys were informed by this video and you enjoyed it. But that's all I'm going to have for now. I hope you all have a blessed Sunday, and I hope you all have a blessed week. And thank you all for watching. Like it if you enjoyed it. Again, I always love receiving feedback, so comment if you do so choose. And I will catch you all later.